Hardly a week goes by that I don't record a discussion with a Vietnam combat veteran, including one just yesterday. And, you know, more
You mean
than
my events?
no.
Oh.
I'm interviewing.
Yourself?
Yeah, I interviewed Vietnam vets all the time.
Oh, it's funny because when you say that, I have that same experience on this campaign trail. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's
I
good.
think
So
that's what you're referring to. Yeah.
no. Well, that's great then. So I
Yeah.
wanted to just ask you, as I think about the vets, including the one I spoke with yesterday, who, well over 50 years later, still carries the burden of that conflict with him.
Yeah.
Everything that we associate with Vietnam and the aftermath.
Sure.
What do you have to say specifically to Vietnam vets?
What we have to say to Vietnam vets is, I'll tell you, it was just last week that I heard the story of one here in Iowa who recently passed. I think his name was Bud Day. I don't know if you know his story.
No, I don't know.
He was captured, subjected to torture, sticking things in his eye, trying to get information which he refused to provide, and every time they would torture him, he would sing the national anthem in their face. He passed a couple of years ago, and his story was one that actually was Congressman Steve King, who I spent the day with. He came to us with our events, and he told his story, which stuck with me. And I've met countless Vietnam-era veterans. You can usually spot them if they're wearing the hat.
Right, yeah.
And my message is a couple-fold. One is, we are grateful to you for loving this country in a way that very few people in my generation today actually do. And the second thing I would say is that one of the reasons why is that we have now sent many of those sons and daughters to go repeat some of the same mistakes that our policymakers made in Iraq and with a prolonged stay in Afghanistan, and now soon to be those same mistakes repeated. We will not repeat the same mistakes of the past, and we will honor your legacy by reviving actual national pride in this country. 25% recruitment deficit in the US military for young people. Why do we have it? Because they're not stupid. They see how we treat veterans on the back end. Well, if we're not a nation that stands actually for our veterans being the most honored and revered and well-treated amongst us, then we're not a country that actually believes in those ideals that are worth fighting for in the first place. So I've offered comprehensive veterans policy on this front. I mean, it's unconscionable that it's supposedly the number is 22 veterans per day committing suicide. I've looked into this, it's closer to 40 veterans per day committing suicide in the United States of America. That's not America. Easy things we could do. Veterans coming back from combat roles, give them 3-week or 6-week decompression buffers in a third-party location. Give them privacy restrictions that stop them from being tagged with red flag laws if they report their PTSD. Allow them true medical choice through the VA. You shouldn't have to drive 100 miles or 120 miles to the nearest VA. You should be able to get community-based medical care near you. The earlier question was about my experience as a businessman. Here's one way I would use that. In a business, like a big publicly traded company, it's the shareholders who determine the pay of the CEO or the CFO. Well, I think we need to have a VA system where the top brass is held accountable in the same way. We need to treat the veterans as the shareholders of the VA. Right? This is how it means to honor our veterans in this country. And I think when we honor our veterans, that's how we honor their legacy. And so, one of those guys began to say, I said, "Thank you for your service, sir." And he had a different question. He says, "No, you don't have to say that." I said, No, I have to say that. In some ways, it wasn't even for him. It's for the next generation to know that we actually do honor those who have served this country. And I think that as long as we're continuing to tell their stories and their love of this nation, to pass that on to the next generation, then their service to this country will far exceed what they just achieved on the ground in Vietnam. But the echoes that we're able to pass down to the next generation of a national pride that we are badly missing. And it is my job as a leader from that next generation. At 38, I'm the youngest person ever to run for US president as a Republican. Somebody who's guided by my gratitude to this country. I view it as my responsibility to pass that pride and that legacy on to your son and my sons and their generation. That's what I would say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.